好。
Welcome to COVID Quickly, a Scientific American podcast series.
This is your fast track update on the COVID pandemic. We bring you up to speed on the science behind the most urgent questions of the virus. We demystify the research and help you. I'm Josh.
And we're Scientific American's health editors. We talk about vaccines, the low risk and the considerable benefit.
And why the shots protect people from COVID infection. COVID vaccine available 5 to 11. How are parents reacting? What do we know about the vaccine safety?
Well, Josh, many parents are breathing a collective sigh of relief that they can now protect their young ones from COVID. They're also thrilled that their kids can get back to doing activities they had to give up during the pandemic, like seeing their grandparents or playing with friends. But other parents are reluctant to get their kids vaccinated or still on the fence. Here's what we do know. While COVID is generally milder in children, more than 1 million kids were infected with the virus in September alone, and 41 died, according to the CDC. That's 41 sets of parents who had to bury a child who died from a preventable illness. The Pfizer vaccine was tested in more than 1,500 kids in the 5 to 11 age group. They were given 1/3 the dose adults get. The vaccine was more than 90% effective at preventing symptomatic COVID, and the few infections that did occur in vaccinated kids were all mild. Vaccinated 5 to 11-year-olds also had a similar level of antibodies as teenagers who got the adult dose. The side effects from the vaccine were similar to those in teens, but milder. They included fatigue, headache, fever, chills, and pain at the injection site. And there were no cases of myocarditis or pericarditis, inflammation of the heart muscle or lining, which have occurred in a small percentage of teens and young adults who got the Pfizer or Moderna vaccines. Myocarditis is more common in boys, but it's still so rare that it would be nearly impossible to have a big enough clinical trial to see the effects. Myocarditis can also be caused by infections, including COVID itself, where it is often more severe. While some young adults have been hospitalized with vaccine-related myocarditis, most cases resolve on their own, and there have been no deaths linked to the vaccine. The CDC and FDA both concluded in separate meetings that the benefits of recommending the COVID vaccine for 5 to 11-year-olds outweigh the risks, and we routinely vaccinate kids against diseases that hospitalize or kill far fewer children. Vaccinating kids also protects communities and could get us closer to ending this pandemic. I keep hearing some people say they don't need a COVID vaccine because they've already been infected. They say they are immune. Is that true?
That's actually a reasonable thing to wonder. If you've been infected by the COVID-causing virus already, do you have enough natural immunity to prevent a second infection? The quick answer is that COVID vaccines work better. Prior infection does give your immune system some resistance. However, when studies compare that to the immunity you gain from vaccines, it's not as strong or as long-lasting or as good at keeping you out of the hospital. Now, here's the longer, more complicated answer. Infections with some other viruses do give people lasting immunity. It happens with chickenpox, it happens with the mumps, for instance. But the COVID virus, SARS-CoV-2, behaves differently from these other viruses. Immunity to it doesn't last as long. Yet this idea that you can maintain natural immunity has become part of the pushback against vaccine mandates. There's even a vaguely worded bill in Congress promoting it. A new study does kind of a head-to-head comparison of natural immunity and vaccine. It looked at 7,000 patients in the U.S. hospitalized with COVID-like breathing trouble. Some had been previously infected with the virus and were not vaccinated. Others had been, with either Pfizer or Moderna. When tested, the previously infected patients were more than 5 times more likely to be positive for the virus than were vaccinated patients. They had been reinfected. Many of the vaccinated people, in contrast, turned out to have some non-COVID illness. The study was led by Catherine Bozio of the CDC, if you want to look it up. Another CDC study of a few hundred people in Kentucky, published in August, found that previously infected but unvaccinated people were twice as likely to get reinfected than were vaccinated folks. And there's more. A study in the journal Science from July indicated that vaccination actually helped previously infected people. Vaccines boosted their antibodies against the virus by 1,000-fold.
So vaccine immunity is always better then?
Well, remember, I said it's complicated. A study of thousands of people in Israel found that previous infections prevented new infections more often than vaccines did. There are some cautions, though. The researchers didn't test all the unvaccinated. Some may have had undetected mild or asymptomatic infections. There might have been enough of those to swing the numbers in favor of vaccination. Also, that study hasn't been peer-reviewed. Finally, it found that previous infections plus vaccinations produced the best protection of all. Here's the bottom line. The CDC just reviewed dozens of studies on it. It says that broadly, both natural infections and vaccines keep risk low for about 6 months. But getting down to the individual level, there are wide swings in antibody levels after natural infection. Some high, some low. Antibodies after vaccination, though, are consistently higher and go after the virus harder. Given a virus that has killed 5 million people around the world, 750,000 in the US, and put 300 young kids in the country in the hospital, evidence says vaccines are much safer.
那今天这篇它有分2个主题。刚开始在讲说打疫苗对于小孩，就是小孩因为不希望他们被影响到，所以就都叫他们去打疫苗。对，所以他们就后来经过一些什么实验之类的，就去打疫苗，然后他们的抵抗力啊、副作用什么的，就跟青少年都是差不多的。对，然后第2个是在讲说有被感染过跟没被感染过的，会不会再被感染？就是假设你被感染过了，那你还是有可能再被感染。对，那所以他也是叫你去打疫苗，因为你如果去打了疫苗之后，好像会降低感染率吧。然后假设你真的再感染了，然后你会比较没有那么严重。对，换你。
这篇 podcast 一开始主要是在讲说，就是打疫苗的抵抗力在于副作用的部分，在每一个年层，像是儿童、青少年之类的这种年层，还有抵抗力的部分。然后后面呢，他们在讲说关于自然的抵抗力跟疫苗的抵抗力啊，然后他们好像还有一直说，就是说打疫苗好像还是会比较好。